So, in the insightful session, The Rise of Brand Led Gaming for Social Change, Glenn Gillis explores the Burgundy intersection of gaming and social responsibility. This talk takes us into how purpose driven games can not only entertain, but also foster real world change, posing the question, how can brands leverage this potential to make a difference? So, without further ado, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for making time to be here today. On this very day, 13 years ago, we started Sea Monster. 13, unlucky for some. Thank you. But how lucky are we that we get to spend today sharing some of that journey with you. Sea Monster is an impact gaming company based in Cape Town, South Africa. And we started with a very clear and actually simple vision. And that was how we could keep users at the center of an experience, a marketing experience and a learning experience. That's really easy to say, and really hard to do. And we've worked with literally dozens of big corporate companies over the years. And we've come to realize that there's actually a really understated role that they have in the gaming space. But they have a really critical an important one when it comes to accelerating the rate of change around SDG development. And we know that partnerships matter, and we know that it's a crisis, so that we all need to overreact. But there's also an incredible opportunity for brands in this space. So this session is why that matters and what that could look like in practice. So what do we already know? We know that there are about 3.6 billion people gaming on a regular basis. And we know that the gaming industry is already bigger than the music and TV industry put together. So I'm not going to spend much time telling everybody what we all already know. All I'll say is that we're here as customers. We're already here. We're waiting. So how are the big brands showing up in the gaming space? So this continuum might be useful. On the left is the traditional way that brands have shown up in our space. They largely interrupt what we'd prefer to be doing. Now, it's a really critical business model for monetization. A lot of games, casual games particularly, are ad funded. But what do you get? Fleeting awareness as a brand? Okay, good, we'll take your money. We're not superstitious, and there are metrics to prove that it works. But what's in it for the user? Not much. And how do we know this? Because the first opportunity that we have to pay a subscription on something like Netflix or Spotify, we get rid of the ads. So that should send a really powerful message that you're interrupting what we'd rather be doing. As we move a little bit further along this continuum, you have advert games. Have they done us real favors over the years? Or are they just sort of games tacked onto the end of ad campaigns by agencies? Are they really luck-based mechanics, or are they really skill-based? So are you actually rewarding your luckiest customer and not your most engaged customer? And then maybe in the middle, we've got things like product placement. So we're back to the 1950s. We're back to soap operas where brands are starting to show up in-game experiences. And that's really great. We think that embedding brands in the right way is super useful. There's an emerging new category coming. Watch out for something called playable advertising. So this is a kind of a hybrid where there's something in it, there's some engagement there, but really the question is, how do you still get that brand message across? So what we're really interested is what's happening on the far right. Not that far right, this far right. And that's where we get that true lean-in experience, where there's a shared agency that we have in co-creating that narrative with the brands, and where they help us feel connected to what they do. So brands and the gaming industry are converging, and the focus is really what us as game makers can teach those brands, the lessons that we've got trapped in the gaming space, and how we might be able to share that with big corporates. It's almost like We need to talk with the customer, not at them. Again, really simple to say. And in some sense, brands went through the same existential crisis at the beginning of the social media revolution 15, 18, 20 years ago, where they couldn't just shout this one-way message, but they needed to figure out how to get into the narrative. Today, we feel that we're at that same point, just beginning to understand what a real conversation with the community actually looks like. So those of you might be familiar with the marketing funnel. It comes in different forms: awareness, consideration, acquisition, advocacy. You can got different names, but it's all the same kind of thing. So maybe a quick way to think about this is how games can actually play a role all the way through the funnel. So what we're seeing right now is at the awareness phase, a lot of brands are engaging with games for PR value. So they want to stand out, they want to be noticed, and so they are making smallish investments into the gaming space, and it's working for them. It's absolutely lowering their cost of acquiring customers, because what was their alternative? Trying to acquire their own customers off fleeting appearances on Instagram. We know the costs are going up and the effectiveness of that spend is going down. So games will right now beat out pretty much most acquisition awareness raising initiatives, and there's a real opportunity around that, particularly in the face of the so-called cookie apocalypse and ad blockers and so on. And what we really want to do is shift to voluntary engagement, because if it's not voluntary, it ain't a game. As we move down the funnel, we're talking about the consideration phase. And here we are delivering hours and hours and hours of voluntary engagement with brands, where brands are integrated into the experience, where there's a subtle sharing of what that message could look like. So do you guys know about content marketing? The guys that used to do those magazines, we've actually got quite a lot in common with them, which is finding those nuggets of things that are interesting to customers and figuring out how to share that. We can learn a lot from them, as we can probably from influencers, to the extent that that really works. And I believe that, you've heard it here today first, games are the ultimate consideration tool for big brands. Let's talk about acquisition. This is where the rubber hits the road. How do we get people to volunteer to exchange their data with us? How do we get into a delicate dance where people want to share information with us that can be used with us to make their experiences better? Oh, hang on, we do that in games all the time. It's not fill out this long, complicated form. It's just share something with me and I'll give something back to you. So in an age where everyone is looking for zero first-party data, games have a huge advantage here too. And then, of course, we know that at this phase, a lot of marketers, brands have what they call loyalty schemes, what we'll call reward schemes, because they're purely based on extrinsics, not really on intrinsics. And then we get to advocacy, the bottom of the funnel. So you want me to be truly loyal. You want me to go and have a reason to play, a reason to come back, a reason to talk to my community about this. Games will beat almost every other marketing instrument as part of the modern marketing mix. They will outcompete at every phase of the funnel, particularly in the consideration and advocacy phase. But then we've got some challenges. In the past, this has largely had to be via the App Store. This is an issue because of the friction that requires. There's a huge move to web-based gaming, which is great because those can more tightly integrate into brands' total digital ecosystems. And of course, they're persistent virtual worlds like Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, and others, where there are already communities. So we, as gamers, know how to build worlds. Do brands? Do they know how to build communities, how to really value and scale storytelling? They've got a lot of user persona data. But are they just seeing this as a product and price push? And are they using this as a way to just pitch their next special offer? So we want to use this to drive real change in the world. And the reason we want to do this is that we are holding our customers to our brands to a higher standard. There's a crisis out there. And data is indicating that if you're not doing right by me, I'm not going to do right by you. You need to stand for something sustainable and more ethical, for something with a higher purpose. We call it epic meaning. And what's good for the world is good for your customers and is also good for business. And how do we know this? Because there are purpose-led businesses out there and lots of data to say that businesses that are driven by epic meaning outperform those that are driven by short-term results. Patagonia, Lego, Dove, and the incredible work that they're doing around self-esteem in an age of toxic beauty standards. Google and their commitment to making the internet a safer place for kids. So the question is, what role can games play to help brands like these drive more towards their commitments, their SDG expressions, to make that part of the community? And here's what we can do. We can bring another lens to this narrative. These worlds are not as connected as you would think that they are. We've got the learning industry working in its silo. We've got the games industry working in its, and of course, Games for Change is trying to bridge that gap. And we believe that this is a new definition of what an impact game could look like, with games as the media, learning and social impact as the intention, and brands as the force multiplier. So sitting in the center of this is what we believe is the new definition of an impact game, or in fact, Games for Change. Let's use our different perspectives to solve the challenges that each of these sectors have. Let's borrow the best practices from each of these verticals, and let's coordinate a response to the SDG crisis that we face. And this is really what we believe the future holds. So, this is the traditional serious game intersect, isn't it? The one that we know and love. This is the work of NGOs, academic institutions, government funding organizations. This is where the science of cognitive behavior change is born, where we can form new habits. It's informed by research and data. We know how to deal with that healthy tension between explicit learning and the fun, exciting, game-like experiences we still need to deliver. We know how to scale intrinsics in a way that brands don't. And this isn't just PBL. This isn't just light gamification. Yes, Temu, it's great. It's amazing. You can definitely use gamification for lots, but we'd like to use it for good. And some of the incredible things that we've already seen in this space. Give as we grow, the plastic pipeline from the Wilson Center, the incredible work that Filament Games do, the amazing stuff that Roblox is doing, and of course all the others. But we've got a business challenge. We need to figure out how to make this sustainable beyond just the grants, beyond just the starting point of, okay, we've got a POC, and it's working, and the data has validated that. How do we scale that? How do we make it sustainable? And how do we maximize real-world impact? Well, I'll tell you where there's $100 billion today. It's sitting in marketing budgets in these big companies. They've got incredible take-to-market capabilities. They can influence billions of people. And they're doing it for fleeting awareness of their brands right now and to drive us directly to buy. We like to say, calm down. Create trust over the long term. That's what a brand is. It's supposed to be about trust. It's supposed to be about taking an experience, building a world, moving from a persistent world to a persistent community. That's where everybody knows my name. That's how I feel loved and valued and part of a brand experience. What we call our epic meaning, they call brand equity. And they should be able to talk with authenticity about the thing that they know best. They just need to figure out how to share that in a way that's relevant to us. Because what's important to me, to you, must be important to them if they really want my trust and long-term money, basically. And here's what's really weird. If you think about how you measure these things, they're really great with all the data and everything that kind of lives with that. But most people in marketing have never heard about monitoring and evaluation frameworks. And when we tell them that there's decades of research around M&E that can actually measure subtle shifts in mindset, in behavior change, they're astounded to learn about these things. We know as an industry how to take knowledge that is trapped in a business and make that interesting and engaging to our users. At Sea Monster, probably half of the dozens and dozens of games that we've built have been with financial institutions. I don't know if you wake up in the morning wanting to learn to budget. Okay, if you do, let's just call that sad. But, but the reality is we do want to learn how to manage our money better. And wouldn't we like to learn that from somebody who's supposed to know about these things, somebody who's supposed to be looking after my financial interests over time, somebody who's earning my trust, yeah, all the same words. And so what we do is we take these games, we figure out a way to value our customers' time. We can take a commitment to an SDG, this vague commitment that somebody on the board signed. We can take these ESG standards, which have ended up becoming tick box exercises, and we can turn that into a series of learning outcomes. We can turn that into a world. We can make that into something that's fun and engaging. And if you think about fashion brands and the devastating effects of fast fashion, supermarkets and the role they could play in food security and pollution, news networks and how they could promote skills in an age of disinformation, sports teams that instead of being funded by sports betting businesses, go back to the core of what sports was supposed to be about, building communities, being together, learning all those cool things. Where's your trust going to be? Where's your loyalty going to be? And we can do this at massive scale. And it'll be good for them, and it'll be good for us. Chipotle. Unbelievable to think that they have been at the forefront of gaming. In 2013, they did their Scarecrow game first, 2013, about non-GMOs and their stance against that, and the dangers of industrialized food productions. This taps into Zero Hunger, SDG 2, and Life on Land. It's been downloaded 300,000 times in days, and they've had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours of engagement. They've just done some incredible work on Roblox. Every brand can find a purpose that matters. Some say baked beans are 3 for $2 at Walmart this Friday. I say your farm to fork story matters. And Farmtopia, the work done by Nestle in Minecraft, create an interactive collaborative space to talk about regenerative agricultural initiatives. Jeez, I'm glad I didn't have a gin and tonic before that line. They've gone a few steps further than Chipotle. They've linked in-game experiences to real-world actions and commitments. Freed rice. We're still there. It's still amazing. It's still the beginning of a big idea. And it's linked to real-world initiatives supporting farmers in coffee production. SDG 2, quality education. SDG 10, reducing inequalities. It's easy to change player agency into a commitment to behavior change in the real world and to earn my trust along the way. Here's one we did earlier. It's called Chowtown because we have a role in culture building. We've surfaced real world food in this tycoon game that we built on Roblox for a big bank in South Africa. 89% approval rating. Kids love it. And parents are grateful that we're allowing their kids to learn real world skills in a practical way. They literally send us thank you notes. We send them cheat sheets on how to have conversations about pocket money. And it was the most successful initiative in the digital initiative in the history of the bank in terms of engagement. So there's an opportunity. Deeply serious issues in our world and deep playfulness are not opposites. Games can play a meaningful role to make a real world impact. And brands can make money doing this. They can monetize in games rather than it just be an expense, can also be a new source of revenue. If you double tap on any of their mission statements, it's an SDG. And it's not just a sideline CSR initiative or a PR stunt. Good place to start. But let's think about how we can help connect silos within corporates. The learning department, the CSR department, and the marketing department should talk to each other. We should get the sectors, I think that's the alarm, isn't it? We can get the sectors, the learning sector and the gaming sector and the marketing sector to talk to each other. Because brands are about trust in an age of misinformation. And it's not what you say, it's what you do. And we can't do this alone. SDG is the second most important SDG of all of them because it makes all the others better. It's the one about partnerships. We need to figure out how to share this knowledge, and we need to figure out how to maximize real-world impact. We need to continue to put users at the center of experiences. This time, we really mean it. It's easy to say, and it's hard to do, but nothing could be more worthwhile.